Well, it has been about 5 years since my last YouTube video. So this one I'm just going to kind of go over what has happened in the last 5 years regarding my endometriosis, as well as the decision to finally get a hysterectomy. Since the last YouTube video, I did have my second excision surgery for endometriosis. They did find more. The surgery went well. However, I just never really recovered as well from that surgery as I did from the first one. It took me a really long time to just kind of get back to somewhat of a normal after that, and it wasn't long after that surgery and my recovery that things started to get worse and worse for me. I'll go over some of the symptoms that I had prior to the decision to get a hysterectomy, as well as all of the people that I saw, just to make sure that I was making the right decision for myself. So things started to change, like I said, shortly after I had my last surgery. I started to have a lot of different symptoms. So as someone with endometriosis, I'm sure you would know that you kind of have the same types of symptoms. You expect them, you kind of get used to them, you know what it is, and you know what's causing it. So following that second surgery, things started to change for me with my pain and symptoms. So the first symptom that I started to have that was just debilitating was fatigue. And I've had fatigue for a while now, but this has just progressively gotten worse and worse to the point where like I could just kind of manage my part-time workload, and then I'd be on the couch for the rest of the day. Anything else was just like too much. Like I would have to schedule in going to the grocery store to make sure that I didn't have anything else planned that would take my energy, because I knew that that would take too much energy. It slowly got to a point where I was nearly bedbound without being bound in bed. I was bound on the couch mostly, but there was no room for any sort of life, really. Like, I haven't been living life for a while now. It has been, anything has been very forceful for me. Like, I have to force myself to go out and do these things because, like, I need to get out, but the energy just isn't there. Other symptoms included progressively heavier and even more painful periods than I have had already. Every single period from one to the next just got more and more painful. I had pain like the week before my period, the week of my period, the week after my period, leaving maybe 1 week for me to feel okay. And it wasn't my normal like stabbing pains. It felt like uterine contractions. Like, it felt like I was having my period for weeks and weeks. Like, it was just everything I did caused my uterus to contract, it felt like. And which is very different than what I've experienced with the endometriosis, with more like I'd have more stabbing pains and stuff like that, more like one-sided versus another. This was very centralized pain and very similar to a period cramp. I also had developed really bad back pain, and I was a fairly fit person. I haven't been, because of all these symptoms. That has taken a back seat for me. There was really no reason for me to be having this back pain. I wasn't doing exercises incorrectly. I was even just resting. If I was on my feet for more than like 5 minutes, my back would hurt. And I'm not sure if any of you have experienced this either, but you can kind of tell whether it's like structural, like you hurt your back, or like muscular in that way, or if it's internal. And for me, it felt very internal. The back pain, it felt like something was kind of pushing on it or causing it from the inside. It didn't really feel like I pulled a muscle in any way or, injured myself. After developing all these symptoms and kind of trying to manage them myself, I sought out different care from different providers. So the first thing that I had done was just go to see a pelvic floor physio again. I'm sure lots of you as well. You kind of always see one at some points. We worked together for probably, I think, a year, and she just couldn't figure out what was going on with my pain levels and my back pain, my pelvic pain, and all the other symptoms that I was having. Oh, I should also mention there was one other symptom that I had that was quite a bit different feeling than with the endometriosis symptoms. So I kind of felt like I was walking around with a water bottle on my pelvis. It was very, like, we all experience bloating, I'm sure, and severe bloating, but this was a very fluid filled feeling. Like, it was heavy, like kind of jiggly, just like all the time. When I would stand up from sitting, it would just like feel like that water bottle was just like falling down on my pelvis, pinching nerves and causing like leg pain and stuff like that. That was quite severe as well. So again, the pelvic floor physio just couldn't figure out what was exactly causing these new symptoms and issues, and she referred me to a midlife women's health center. So I did get in to see the women's health specialist, and she started me on Vyzan again. So I was on Vyzan quite a while ago. It did fairly well, but only for a period of time, and then I had to try other things. So I decided to try it again. I had a very different experience the second time around. I ended up having a period every week. So I'd have period, it would just finish, and then it would start again, and just not okay with that. So that did not work well for me. I had contacted her, and we both agreed to stop the medication at that point. It had been, I think I was on it for 4 months at that time, and just wasn't working for me. So she suggested again that I go follow back up with my gynecologist who did my 2 previous surgeries. I finally got in to see her. She tried me on one other medication just to make sure that we couldn't like solve this without any additional surgeries. I think it was called Noralutate. That I did terrible with as well. I was only on it for about a week, and just the side effects were too bad that I just had to stop it immediately. So after all of that, after trying pelvic floor physio, after trying these other medications, and all the suggestions that were given to me by all the specialists, I went in again to see my gynecologist, and at this point, with all of the symptoms that she knows that that have appeared in the last couple years, she had suggested that I possibly had adenomyosis, and just all those symptoms line up really well with that other condition, and she suggested a hysterectomy. Now, I know in the community with endometriosis, we get told sometimes to just have a hysterectomy and it'll cure it, and we all know that that doesn't actually cure the endometriosis. And so, like, you kind of have this negative feeling towards that procedure and the suggestion of that. But this is the first time that she has ever suggested it to me. I have never, in all of these years of me seeing her, I think I've been seeing her since, it's been about 10 years since I've been seeing her. So in all of these years, this is the first time that she's ever suggested a hysterectomy, because that actually does cure adenomyosis, because it's a condition of the uterus. So I was still really reluctant to go ahead with that. So I had told her I would think about it. I had a lot of questions for her. I asked all of them. She was really good with just like being patient with me, asking all of these kind of weird questions just to make sure that I'm making the right decision for myself. And as things continued to get worse and worse, like every single month, things would get worse. And at that point, I had 1 or 2 really, really bad months. And I just thought, what other option do I really have at this point? Like, do I continue to do this until I reach menopause, which can be like years and years and years from now? Or do I just decide to do this procedure and hope for the best? Because I really wasn't able to live at that point. And so at that point, I did decide to sign consent and go ahead with it. Things had gotten, like I said, really, really bad at that point when I finally decided. So she did rush me in urgently. I ended up getting in, man, might have been like 3 weeks after I told her yes. I just spoke with her on the phone. She had me come in and sign consent. And the day that I came in to sign consent, they called me after I got home from my appointment, and they had an opening for a cancellation. So I took that. It was only 1 week from that day to the day of the surgery, and that was on January 10th of this year. I just got back from my almost 8 week checkup today, and everything is looking really good. So that was a relief, and why I decided to actually do this video today. I hope that clears up kind of why I decided to have a hysterectomy. It's a very personal decision. I think some people get very angry at a decision to get a hysterectomy because they think it's unnecessary, and then others that think like you should have done it years ago, and it's everybody just has to make the decision for themselves and the pain and symptoms they're experiencing for themselves. So that is my experience, and that is the reason why I decided to have one.